Hello everyone and welcome back to our next video. Today we are doing something very fun and very terrain tool heavy. We are making a Japanese garden with a little temple running through it. So at the moment I am sculpting out the land. I picked this 64 by 64 lot on Windenburg because it had a beautiful landscape behind it with the waterfall and the trees rolling up, so I kind of wanted to reflect that like they do, like the old garden masters did back to create the Japanese gardens that you can go visit in Japan. Even though I've never been to Japan, hopefully one day I can actually go, but some of their gardens are pretty amazing and completely different to the gardens that you get over in the UK. Even though there are some Japanese gardens, some rich people back in the day were able to go over and get Japanese designers to come over and do their own versions of Japanese gardens, so you can somewhat experience it over here, but it's obviously nothing like the actual place and being there and stuff. So we are using a lot of different various trees as well. Some of the ones from I think all of the ones from the cats and dogs stuff, because you can get them in a various different stages of blossom and sort of the nice orange stuff. So you probably wouldn't find both blossom trees and maple trees in bright red at the same time, but this is The Sims and I wanted to make it as extremely Japanese, classically Japanese as possible. So we have both blossom trees and lovely red maple trees as well, and we're also going to be using the moving up and down of the buildings to create different heights for our little temple areas. So just making little boxes for those, and could be making bridges and all sorts of fun stuff to go, so Sims can actually walk round the garden and do some. I think I put one of the bonsai trees in, and a little place to do the meditation, the wellness skill as well, so your Sims can come and do some mindfulness in the piece of the garden. And we also got a nice big sand garden at the front as well, because I thought that is a very, very important part. So it's kind of half sand garden, half stroll garden, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So a stroll garden is one that you walk through, hence the name stroll, and a sand garden is creating all the water and imitating the landscape using just rocks and sand, and it's when you couldn't get water and stuff into your garden for different spiritual reasons and stuff. So all our little plants and stuff are trying to be as accurate as you can in The Sims. I do actually by the end probably have broken this lot by adding so much of a certain plant everywhere, because the Japanese gardens like to utilize moss a lot in their gardens. So I was like, oh, this little plant looks a little bit like moss. I shall cover every single bank that is exposed with this plant. So if you do want to download it, it's on the gallery already, and you have been warned, your game will start flashing and all sorts of fun stuff if you zoom out too much, because I think there are slightly too many objects in this build for the game to handle, but we'll just gloss over that fact. And also with using the extra little things on the roofs, you can make pretty cool little Asian roofs that like flick out at the end and all sorts of fun stuff, so you can make a pretty close representation of that type of style of architecture. Obviously you can't do it the proper justice because we don't have any form of Asian inspired pack, except for some of the city living stuff that is always a very good to actually use some of the stuff in there that's inspired by Asia and different cultures. It'd be quite nice if we could get a pack that was more world inclusive instead of a lot of packs that have been coming out recently that is just really American. And we're just like, what if we play the game in other countries other than America? How are they supposed to be represented in a pack that's about Area 51 or Los Angeles and stuff like that? So it would be nice to see some more cultural diversity in our Sims game, just so we can have some more interesting and tell more people's stories in the game, using some lovely red brick and red and white poles to put round as little like gates to go along the bridge, using the prop from the actual, I think it's the pirate ship siding, and it works really well as a little top bit for the actual gates, and makes it slightly more realistic than trying to construct one out of something else. When I found it in the catalogue, I was just like, that could work. I think it looks quite cool. It's probably the closest thing we're gonna get in The Sims to actual proper like gates and red bridges and stuff like that. So we're trying to make a red bridge, because every Japanese garden has to have a red bridge in it. And like, when we actually get into making the actual garden itself, I have cut it slightly, because I could not let you sit through me placing like hundreds and hundreds of bushes and stuff. But we get the main gist of it, and I thought it'd be nice, instead of doing screenshots, to do an actual walkthrough at the end as well, so you can actually get a feel for the garden. We chose a nice red, like a cherry red wood to go around all the bridges and stuff like that, making our little front entrance as well. At the moment it looks super plain because we haven't got any of the trees or anything like that, but once we start getting some foliage in, it will look super cool. Starting off with our rock garden, so we're just trying to place some rocks in some interesting areas, and trying to make little mountains and stuff. I made myself a little pile of stuff because I knew I wouldn't be able to find anything in the catalogue while trying to get stuff. That's always super annoying when you're trying to find a certain object and you know it's in there, but you can never see where it is. So now we're going to start our planting up, so using these like shorter trees at the foreground of the build, because the angle we've got it at the moment is like the perfect angle to view the slot from. So if you're downloading it, you have to look at it from a certain angle, because that's how they used to. So that's how some of the gardens are actually framed. They had like special windows built, so you could only look at certain parts from certain angles, like a picture. So using the blossom ones to sort of set our canvas basis, and then there's interspersing our maple trees into them to try and get different heights and different scales and stuff. So we try to make the garden go upwards the further back we go in it, in using the base game bright pink tree as well, just to add in a little bit more of different colour and a little bit more of a variety as well. Also do a little secret garden around the side of this, around the side and around the back, just because I wanted to add the little koi carp pond in there as well. It's because there is a little koi carp mat or rug that you can use, but I didn't think you'd be able to see it in the green water, so I was like, I want to have the koi carp pond and make a little more of an enclosed garden, a bit like ones that you might find up in the more wooded and the areas like pine woods and stuff. And I changed the window screen of my thing as well. So to get our mossy texture, we're starting off with some big bushy parts. You can imagine this is properly overgrown moss and stuff, and then I'll try and scale them down to kind of blend them into the lower bits of moss. We're using the flat square tiles and stuff. I also put some of the, I think they're the pat grave objects in as like stones or little offering places that kind of have been buried away into the foliage over the different eras. And I tried to get some different heights and colours in here. It wasn't really working by using different objects, so I kind of gave up on that. I was just like, you can't see that there are different bushes in there. So we're going to go along and moss garden our little area up, so just giving it a complete layer of greenery to make a little pathway that goes all the way along the side of the lot, and it's nice and tucked away around the back here. So we've got some stones actually in the grass itself, like kind of, not grass but moss, in the moss, so the moss can finally grow over them and turn into lovely moss stones, blending in the pond a bit as well because it sticks out a bit. I did think about putting these little red trees from Seasons in, but I thought it was a bit too formal with the little pot thing, so I think I put one over by the actual like walkway itself, and the moss covered stone circle was a great little object to put in here. I thought it'd be quite nice to put like a little traditional, like if they had an old bridge from really back in the day, so using a shelf and scaling it up as a little makeshift bridge area. So we've got like a really like centuries old way of getting from one island to the other. Like adds a little bit of character to the build, especially as by the water there's not actually that much happening with the water. We've got a little stone slab as well. That could be one of the little have Japanese writing on it of stuff to mark something off, and we've got a little entranceway around the side as well, so you kind of have to know it's there to be able to go and visit it, because you can't see it from the front. So if you're sneaking around the side of the lot then you'll know where it is. At first I thought I would use like the big get together stone bits and make it as though the moss is kind of growing in between them. I thought it just didn't, it looked a bit too like bright, so I found this little stone texture. I think it's supposed to be like gravel or something, but it was really nice, as it looked like the grass had actually grown over the pathway, so it's quite nice. And it was nice to use under the trees as well, as though they'd dropped their blossom and stuff, so I went a bit mad and like covered everywhere in the stone thing. I do go and put like loads of bushes over the top of that, so it's not as bad as it looks at the moment. And then we're going to go work on this side of the garden, adding in our bushes, especially underneath the actual walkways and stuff, just where you wouldn't be able to see as well the stuff. So it'd be quite nice to put the bigger stuff there, and then we kind of go down and line the edge of the sand garden as well, and try and make it as sharp as possible. It's really hard to get a nice curve and stuff with a square object, so you have to place like so many just to get it looking nice. We've got some smaller ones as well, so you start seeing me. I actually cover near enough the whole garden in these things, and then I wonder why it starts flashing and trying to crash when you zoom out too much, because there are so many of these little square moss things, and you start lining it, trying to make a little curve out of it, trying to make it as natural as possible instead of a beautiful square thing that I've got at the moment. And we're actually getting towards the end of the actual build part, because I don't want to torture you by making you watch all of that type of placement, because that is literally The only thing I have to do in this build is to place hundreds and hundreds of moss to cover the ground so it looks lovely and beautiful. Especially like how green and dark it is compared to the sand. I do leave some of the stones and stuff under the trees over here and kind of make it a little bit more sparse because we're coming out of the lot itself. I didn't consider kind of fencing it in, but I thought you might as well be able to see it from where you are instead of making it really, really obscured and stuff. So that is an example of what we're going to do, and now we're in our little walkthrough so we can take a closer look as we walk through the garden. So I will leave you with this for you to enjoy and get your zen on. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to give it a like. If you'd like to see any more builds, then feel free to subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye!